They not like us. Hey, hey, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is your girl, Dr. Terrell Ravenel, and my co host,
Joe Bullock, aka Joe Speaks Truth. How y'all doing? How y'all doing out there?
we are excited for yet another episode coming your way on Relationship Topia. Listen, Joe, all things relationships, relationship with yourself, relationship with God first, relationship with yourself, and relationship with others. So we dive deep into the aspect of relationships and showing how relationships impact every area really of your life, and yeah, and what we can do as individuals in the relationship to foster healthy, thriving relationships. I know that there's so much out here, with marriages and individuals going through separations and divorce and friendships and all of the things. And we like to bring truth. We like to bring perspective based on our experiences, our education, our relationships, and things of that nature, and just helping individuals to be able to have healthy relationships at the end of the day.
And most importantly, we bring a perspective from the Word of God.
Absolutely.
So we really just bring in spiritual principles that govern success in every area of our lives. And we're going to have to do a whole series on what is success, because people think success is just this one prescriptive way of always being happy and always having bliss. But we believe it's even so much more to life than just happiness, and having total fulfillment and alignment with who God has truly called us to be. And so we work that in all those areas.
Absolutely. So we have a juicy episode on today. We're going to be talking about spiritual resilience, and particularly in the context of marriage, enduring hard times in marriage, enduring hardness in marriage. And I was talking to Joe, and I said, some people feel as if when you get married, you should not have difficulties or you should not have hard times and travesties and things of that nature. But, if the truth be told, the same way in your life as a single person, you experience challenges and adversity and hard times. You're going to experience that in the marriage relationship. It doesn't change just because you got married. But the whole concept of you enduring those things is that you do have a partner, you have someone that you're enduring with, right? And that you can go through these things with, and you can navigate together through these things. However, unfortunately, we know sometimes that is not always the case.
Right.
A lot of times, unfortunately, you have individuals on two separate pages. So we'll get into that a little later. But we do want to spend a moment here just really talking about the various seasons in marriage that individuals go through. And guess what? There are different seasons in life as well. So as we're talking about this, you'll see that as we're relating these seasons and periods of time to marriage, you will also see that, man, if you're a single person or desiring to get married, you may say, I'm experiencing some of these seasons in my own life, or my relationship with my parents, or my relationship with my children, and that's just what life is, right? John 16:33 says that in this life you're going to have problems, issues, we will, right? Difficulties, adversity, you absolutely will. But the word of God tells us in that very same verse, but be encouraged that God has already overcome. So it's not that the storms will not form, but they do not have to overpower. They do not have to destroy your marriage relationship. They do not have to, contribute or influence separation or disconnection and division. We, as the partners, the two individuals, the master of the marriage, if you would, the owners or the investors of the marriage, it is up to us. It's our responsibility to safeguard and to protect the marriage relationship. We want to talk a little bit about that. So the first season we're going to talk about is summer.
All right. Oh my God. I'm super excited to talk about this topic. And before we begin into summer, one thing I want to say, I'm like, where do I want to insert this statement? But I just believe one of the greatest threats to relationships is the lack of communication, our inability or our lack of skills in that area, and or our unwillingness to develop in that area. And so you're going to kind of hear that throughout the part of one of the things that's going to show up in different seasons is going to be a key to navigate throughout the different seasons. And I just want to go ahead and make a disclaimer. We're not saying that we have overcome, we have arrived, or we are quote unquote experts. We're speaking from personal experience, but also, like you said, we're going to be bringing in biblical truths that guides principles of how to navigate this thing. So dealing with the summer,
Yeah.
first you need to understand that this is a season of growth. This is a season of abundance. This is maybe even you might call it the honeymoon stage where everything is all good. This is where you're experiencing a crazy amount of joy. You're passionate. You feel like you're in harmony with one another. Everybody kind of understands their role and responsibility. We just,
We
we
outside.
flowing. We flowing. Yeah, we
We
outside. We outside. We outside. Doing the thing, cultivating lots of love for one another. Just kind of, I don't. You've seen the best in each other. You're nurturing the connection. You're going out, doing your date nights, spending time watching movies, celebrating the successes together, celebrating with different milestones that you have, supporting one another. You just feel a level of connectivity and fulfillment. This is too, I want to say, like a lot of times this is when you kind of falling in love or your early stages of love that can last really anywhere from, people say 6 months to 4 years. I say it can even go up to 6.5 to 7 years that can happen. But usually after that, if you haven't really started dealing with some things going to start to, you're going to have to start dealing with some stuff with a lot of times without those communication tools, which we'll get to that on a little bit here, but even on another episode about kind of navigating that, then you'll say, okay, it can be a challenge. But a couple other things I want to mention about summer. Like I mentioned, you'll have that deep connection, having a level of fulfillment. So you'll feel, we often talk about this thing called Maslow hierarchy of needs, which is a really important foundational things as it pertains to relationships. And it talks about first having that sense of your basic needs being met, water, food, shelter is the first part of that pyramid, if you will. Then it talks about being safe, like your physical safety. Then it talks about your social and your emotional safety. And the time of summer, you will feel a level of social and emotional safety. You'll feel like your partner accepts you, you accept your partner, you guys belong together, you guys are, doing all the things and really just feeling connected and one with each other. This is why people oftentimes take it from dating to engagement and then to marriage and have these committed relationships because you vibing. We vibing. We vibing, you know what I mean? So you having that vibe going on. Right. And it's just this feeling, it's a great feeling, like marital bliss. Sometimes people call it. And it's a beautiful season. Yeah. But I want to say, like, we can't be so naive. We can't keep the rose-colored glasses on and thinking that there's not going to be trials and tribulations that's going to happen. I don't know anyone who's been married for more than 2 decades who haven't experienced, pretty much was on the brink of their marriage not lasting. And obviously they're still married, then it worked out. But some people didn't make it. And sometimes it's a real thing. And I personally believe that one person can save a marriage. This is a controversial belief because some people say, no, it takes two. I'm going to say I do believe one person can save a marriage, and I also believe one person can tear it down. Now, the ideal situation is that both partners, when you experience that hardship, but I don't want to jump the gun, that you both work through it. But I'm talking about the summer. So let me back
Let's
up.
Keep it light. Let's keep it light and hot.
Keep it light and hot. So I'm gonna pass the mic. I don't know if you want to say anything about the summer before you go to the next season of marriage.
So what I would just, only thing I really want to say is that the summer is a season of abundance. And I feel like it's very important to embrace all of what you're experiencing in that moment, all of the happiness, all of the joy, all of the fulfillment, all of the connection, and remember those things, right? Continue to keep them in your memory bank. Even write down moments with your spouse during that time, because when, fall and winter come, you're going to need that. So I'm not going to talk about those right now. But the next one I'm going to talk about is spring. Spring is the season of renewal and new beginnings. Think about spring cleaning. A lot of people, when they do spring cleaning, Jill, they're, taking out the winter clothes, if you would, or the different clothing styles, and they're storing them in their storage area. They're changing out curtains. They're changing out plants. People that garden, they may be changing out different gardening things as far as, planting certain vegetables or planting certain fruits during that time. They're also changing out bedding and things of that nature. They may even look to renovate the home,
right?
So think about that. That's what's happening in the spring season. So this is a season that represents a period of growth. You're growing, you're changing, you're still in honeymoon, you're still loving one another, you're still enjoying each other's company, but you're also growing, you're evolving, you're starting to see, before, you're everything your husband did, you love. Oh my God, I love him so much. I appreciate him so much. But then you begin to see, not that you don't love him, but you start to see more of them. I'm going to say that you start to see them in rare form. You start to see different variations of them, different versions of them, if you would. And I feel like even with that, in that moment, you can choose to accept that, right? Because I feel like what people do, they don't do the best at sometimes is that when they see that, they start to immediately like, oh, something's, you shifting, you changing. I don't like that change. I don't like that shift. And I remember my husband had said something to me one time because we had an agreement on a specific thing. And when I changed my mind, he didn't understand why I was changing my mind. He said, well, why are you changing your mind? You said that, you said this. I said, well, babe, I'm allowed to change my mind. What I thought about this 7 years ago is not what I think about that now. So it's a great opportunity. Yeah, it's a great opportunity in the springtime to allow your partner to grow and to evolve and to become who they have been destined to become. So, and the responsibilities that we have during that season is to embrace the growth, is to adapt to the change instead of trying to change them. Is seeing them like, okay, I see he likes this, or if you're a husband watching and listening, I see she likes this, and not judging them for it, even if it's something that you don't like or you don't agree with. You're not going, you're not the same person, so you're not going to like. And I think if you did like every single thing the person did and wanted to do every single thing that they wanted to do, that's absolutely boring. Mm-hmm. So we have to understand that we're two different people. More than likely, you grew up in two different environments, two different household structures. Even if both grew up in two-parent homes, the structure of it looked different. You may have had a different experience with religion, even if it was Christianity, right? So we have to keep all those things in mind and not want a replica of who we are, but want someone that is different than we are, different how they think, right? Mm-hmm. How they feel, because I feel that can bring a great perspective to the marriage relationship. So our responsibility too during that time is to work on communication and understanding, right? So that's not the time to, shuffle things aside. That is not the time to dismiss stuff. When you begin to see certain things, you want to start communicating. Oh, babe, I see that you like it this way. Or, oh, I noticed that this, and this is still very light because we're still in the spring season. So, you're in that season when you're experiencing, there's some new challenges that are going to come up. There are new opportunities that you will be faced with. And that's going to be a great time, Jill, for you to start talking about the things that are coming up that you're seeing, different transitions. Maybe you have children, maybe children are leaving the home, maybe children are entering the home, maybe parents are entering the home, or just different things are happening. Still great, but there are different things that are happening. Maybe somebody is wanting to go back to school, maybe somebody's wanting to change jobs, or take a leave of absence from the job for various things. Maybe somebody want to work on arts and craft. So there are different things. So that's why it's so important during that spring, that renewal period, Jill, that there's a lot of communication that's happening during that period.
Absolutely, and that's good. And one thing I was just thinking when you're speaking, what I'm hearing you say is really that this is where you start to identify your differences. Mm-hmm. And I feel like oftentimes one mistake we often make, people tend to make, is that rather than seeing those differences and embracing them, because really how you see those differences is going to depend how the rest of you fare in fall and winter, and how difficult those challenges will be. One of the things I will share, to be transparent, is one difference that during me and my husband's spring season that we identify was that I came from a family that was highly, and is highly communicative, meaning that we do a lot of things together. When we, like I joke to say, when we went to Florida, we went to family reunion, generally everybody gets their own rooms and all the things. Somehow one of us ended up deciding we wanted to do an Airbnb. And then it went from one person getting Airbnb to having a whole house of Airbnb, and all of us, we coordinated travels. We knew what time everybody's going to get there. We coordinated rental cars. It was a lot of coordination and community and like just coming together. My husband on the other side, he comes from a very individualistic family. So, high level individualism where everybody's independent, high level of independence, which is a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. And so you won't necessarily see, not to say that they don't do those things. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it is typical for we all to be traveling to the same area, and we'll kind of just catch up with each other when we get there and all the things. But generally we're not. So it's just a different, we're not still going to be staying in the same quarters unless it was like planned for a family retreat or like some type of thing. But it's not usually don't happen that way. Yeah. So that's like a core difference. And that's really important on how we see those, because if he's tending to be more individualism and independent, I can't internalize that and take that personal when he wants to pursue time alone because that is his, what he's accustomed to. And then to me, I would gravitate towards more family time, more community time. So that could create conflict just in itself by the different ways
The
of being.
differences,
Yeah, for sure.
You have to see how can we align these two things, right? How can we
Absolutely.
mesh these two things without causing disruption in the unit? There has to be like a happy medium, if you would, happy balance, and you have to create boundaries around those areas, and that's where communication comes in.
Right, so you can
right?
express those understandings and expectations.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think this is a good time to tell them about your devotion, which
Yeah.
inspired our topic on today. Trell just dropped, and I'm gonna let her share her sixth devotion on YouVersion.
Yeah, my sixth devotion on the YouVersion Bible app. So if you don't have that app, I need you to download it today. Where over 500,000 followers are on the app collectively. 500 million. I'm sorry, not 500,000.
Right, 500 million.
500 million
So
followers.
that's 500 million.
Yeah, 500 million followers are on that app, and to date, I probably already have it by the time this does air. 200,000 individuals have subscribed to my plan. So the new devotion is spiritual resilience, finding hope and strength in the midst of marital crisis. And listen, this is not just for individuals, Jill, that are going through. This is not just for people that need a quick fix to something. This is a tool. This is a resource for you to have in your back pocket to be able to, lean and glean from as to what you need to do when you face spiritual resilience, not if. When you face difficulty in spiritual warfare, I'm sorry. So it's not if you experience spiritual warfare in your life or your marriage, but it's when. And this devotion will definitely help you to be able to navigate through that. So if you don't have it, you don't have the app, download it today. Subscribe to my plan. The last I looked, Jill, I had 870 people
dropped like yesterday
that has subscribed to that plan in particular already. So listen, I know it's going to be a blessing. I started reading it myself. I'm on day 2. I don't know what day it'll be, when this airs, but I'm blown away even by the content that was shared, and it's blessing me. And I'm the author, so go grab it.
It's really good. And let me say this, and I tell you, I'm not being biased, but I've read a lot of devotions, listened to a lot of devotions, and Trell's is definitely in the top 90 percentile in terms of value, in terms of richness, in terms of relevancy and content. So yeah, great job. I listened to one with her yesterday, and I got to start my plan today. So today I get to start. So anyway, let's move on to number 3 for the fall season. This is a season of transition. Ooh. This is a season of reflection. Some of this reflection will be collective, and some of this reflection will be individual. And it's important to do both, like really continuously having those moments of check-in with yourself. Sometimes that may be daily, and with each other. You don't got to check in with each other necessarily daily in terms of reflection, but at least you want to do that on a weekly or monthly basis, because sometimes when we don't do that, this is where things kind of start to build up. But with the season, this season is symbolic to, just like we said, time of transition. You start to have some challenges, start to reflect. Okay, what's going on in this marriage? Am I happy here?
That's a real thing.
Working for me. Did I marry the right person? All of a sudden, things that didn't bother you are starting to bother you about your partner. You start to sometimes even amplify the differences. Try to understand what that means, how to navigate it. You just start to reflect and maybe even question the relationship. You start to work on, hopefully you start to work on some conflict resolution. And this is where we talk about the communication gets really, you can get really jammed up here. Because what I realized, and we've been talking about this, and I'm just so passionate, and I want to bring in a couple of things here. This is a great time to bring these things in. I know we were talking about, last time we talked about the importance of, we talked about toxic masculinity and mental health, and how a lot of times men don't express emotion and all the things. And I saw a video of Jonathan Major. There's a video I think is going viral right now. Beautiful moment of Ayanna Van Zandt, and I just celebrate Ayanna Van Zandt for seeing him, knowing that he needed to be seen and recognized, because he just had a really hard time in his career when he went from being on the top to going like just zero. They really tried to just credit him and all the things really quickly, and so his life just really changed overnight. Complete shift of trying to just really try to demasculate him. It's just a whole thing. So he was really deeply hurt by everything that happened, and Ayanna Van Zandt recognized him and he got on stage and spoke, and he's blown away so many people.
Mm.
The thing I love.
I'm a fan now.
I think he gained so many fans.
I'm a fan now.
And the thing he did was being vulnerable.
That's it.
And that's the same thing we need to do in our
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah.
Is be vulnerable. But sometimes rather than us being sharing, because what he did is he shared his heart.
Yes, he did.
He talked about how he was hurt, how he, wanted
Like a
to
little
talk to
boy.
his mom.
Yeah.
And the way he embraced Ayanna Van Zandt.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, she was
All
covering
emotions.
him, very emotional.
Yeah.
He didn't try to hold it back. It just was coming. And maybe he couldn't even hold it back if he wanted to.
Yeah.
It was emotionally overwhelming for him in a good way, but he still gave a very powerful message and just saying how, he just went back to wanting to be with his mom, being comforted by his mom through a very difficult time. And I just love to see him embrace that emotions. I hate that he was hurt in that way.
Yeah.
But to own that, because really until we take that time to do that, we can't really navigate. And I feel like, and when we talk about conflict resolution, sometimes because in the Black community, we're so stoic in our approach. We're so, protective. We're so prideful. We don't want to show any vulnerability. We don't want to share our emotions. We tend to, by default, go towards what we call secondary emotions, which is the anger, rather than, saying how we feel. And I listen, my name is Joe Bullock, right? AKA Joe Speak Truth. And I used to have an anger management problem even before I got married. So I had to go from this anger management, which what it was, a lot of times we have anger, is really an inability, you're lacking the skills to be vulnerable. So rather than expressing the hurt and pain that you're experiencing, you express the frustration, right? You express the frustration and anger and the, you don't want to express that soft side. You want to express it. I'm not going to be weak enough, and then you want to be Hulk Hogan or whoever in that moment, and it's just not beneficial. So we get to, in this time of the fall, like navigate conflicts, develop those communication skills. You may feel the tension. You're going to hopefully face those conflicts. The worst thing in this time that you can do is continue to sweep things under the rug. Because at some point, if you keep sweeping things under the rug, you're going to have a mountain, molehill, or whatever underneath the rug, and everybody's going to realize that it's underneath the rug, and you're going to have to move that rug off and start dealing with the things, and just start dealing with one thing at a time. Sometimes if you are a conflicted couple, which you can find this out through assessments, and I know Trell will put some links down below, which Trell has some online courses you can do or marital counseling that you can do to help you to assess where you are in your marital journey and to help you understand, because a lot of times people just do not. This is why me and Mr. We was coming in here and we was just talking. I said, people get married for some dumb, people get divorced for dumb reasons. A lot of times it's like, oh, we don't know how to communicate and we don't want to take the time to learn. Like,
you learn here, you're gonna learn somewhere else.
And I don't want to pass judgment back to we didn't talk about Meagan Good, but she was that came up. We were that's the thing. That's actually the topic we were talking about, saying what happened with, because I think saw a picture of Devon Franklin, and you can sell, and our hearts go out to him. You guys keep our brother in prayer. I believe that he's still hurting, even though it was his decision to initiate the breakdown, the divorce. And I'm sure he had great reasons and felt like at the time it was the right thing to do. And perhaps it is. Because again, how can I say? He may needed to do that for himself, for alignment or whatever the case. I don't know. It's not my space to judge. But I can tell you, I can see that he's still hurt. And I understand that after he decided that he wanted to get back with her. And so I just wondered if they had the right counseling, if they had the right coaching to support them, that it would have made a difference. Because there are specialists. There's specialists. Let me go here for a second. I'm going to try to get wrapped up in 2 minutes. And I don't want to tarry, but I think this is important. I feel like when you're in this place of the fall, this is where you may need counseling. My opinion on counseling is a little bit conflicted. Let me tell you why. I feel like if you are at the stage and you go to a counselor who's not a specialist, who just is a generalist, that may do more harm than good, because a lot of times what ends up happening is you end up talking a lot of the problem focused, and you end up rehashing old issues that you guys struggled to get over the first time. Now you revisit it from 20, 50 years ago, and there may be a place for that. But it's better to go with a marital counselor who has a proven track record in helping couples just not dig up old issues, but
Right.
to integrate
Solution focus.
solution focus and
Yeah.
integrating certain communication tools
Yeah.
to help you to be more effective in how you guys engage and deal with each other. And then that way it can kind of helps your relationship work through some of these issues, because you're gonna have to work through issues. You can't tell me you're gonna live with somebody
You never
for
have
10,
conflict.
20 years.
Never have an
Right.
issue.
And a lot of people lack the skills to resolve these issues, so they just in the relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna talk about differences because I can't get along with you.
And sometimes when they do that and they don't have an issue, sometimes they just, take it
Mm-hmm.
and be miserable, honestly.
Yeah, and that's not the way either.
Or ignore it and pretend it's not there, but deep down inside, it's still a level of miserable and still a level of unhappiness. So you got to face it. You have to face these challenges. You have to face these uncertainties, and just face the music of what's happening in the marriage at that moment. And this is, like you said, the prime time in this fall season. That communication is key. Learning to deal with conflict. Because I believe in conflict. I believe you should have an argument. You should. I mean, not screaming matches at people, but some people have had that too. But you should disagree with your partner, and you should be able to navigate through that disagreement and get to a place where you are communicating healthy. I don't agree, or I don't like this. I don't understand whatever your word choices are, but still respect each other. And that's the thing too. So you still, Jill, have to be able to respect one another. I don't like it, but I respect you, or I respect your decision, or I respect that you want to do this. And it's just simple things like that. But like you said earlier, we just, by nature, many don't know how to be vulnerable and how to be raw, because that may look like you're weak. That may look like you're giving in. That may look like, you're letting them win or whatever. So during this reflection period, I know you said individual reflection and also reflection together, but I feel like that individual reflection needs to be on you too. Like, what's going on with me? What has changed with me?
Mm-hmm.
And not even just to the marriage, how I'm contributing, but just like what's going on in my mind, what's going on in my space, what has caused me to now feel uneasy after 15 years of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It might not have anything to do with your spouse. It may be a lack of your growth. It may be a lack of you being understanding. It may be a lack of you applying the fruit of the spirit. It could be so many things, right? We can't automatically go to, I'm not happy and he's a problem or she's a problem. I'm not happy, but what's going on with me, right? What's going on inside of here? And I feel that that's extremely important during this season as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's a way right into the winter season of how you're going to navigate and move there.
Listen, that season of endurance and resilience, that is the hardest season. But the thing is, the hope is that because you've gone through summer and you built reserve, and you've gone through spring and you're learning to communicate, and you've gone through fall and you have seen the different transitions, and you both have been able to navigate, that when this winter season comes, you have the power to be able to endure, right? You can endure hardness and you can endure hard times. The trials and tribulations may be at an all-time high. You're talking about, it may be someone lost their job and half of the income may be gone. It may be, unfortunately, a death of a close family member, a loss of a child. This can be a very hard season. The communication could be so disheveled or divided in this period, to whereas there has been a hint of an affair or an emotional affair or something could have happened. So this can be a very devastating time in that marriage relationship. So you're here when you're feeling distant, when you're feeling you feel divided, you feel disconnected from your partner, you feel like you're struggling with communication. It doesn't matter what you say or how you try to say it, nothing comes off right. It almost always end up in either an argument or you completely avoid one another altogether. You no longer are, calling each other, pet names or whatever. Those have gone out the window. You're not addressing one another in a kind way because there's a lot of hurt there. And that's understandable, right? You're so hurt and you're so devastated by what's going on. So despair and all of the other negative feelings and emotions are now taking over during this period. So it's a lot of tests during that time. So our responsibilities in the marriage is to endure through these challenges, is to be able to see, okay, babe, I see we're going through this. You can't change your disposition of how you feel about your spouse, even though you're going through a hard time. When you start changing how you feel, that's a dangerous place, because now you're putting on, you're defensive, right? You're constantly probably argumentative because you're so on guard, because you don't like the place that you're in, now you're changing how you feel about the person. And that can be very dangerous. And I'm saying you're changing how you feel in the negative way, not necessarily in the positive way. So it's important that together you learn how, okay, what can we do to strengthen our bond? We're going through, yes, this has happened. Now what? We've decided we're going to be together. We've decided that this marriage is worth fighting for. We've decided that nothing is going to be able to separate our marriage, our union. We're in it to win it. Good
On
stuff.
Amazon.
In it to
Grab
win it. Get it off Amazon. It doesn't matter what happens. We are going to be here, and we are committed to the end. We're committed to the vows. There's been times I've sent my husband our vows, like, look at these vows. Remember these? This is what we said to one another. This is what we promised
Committed for
each
God
other
and
to God. And we have to take that serious. So regardless if you don't like me right now, or I might have said something, I may have done something that may be on a very intense level, but we are committed to this. So how can we get back committed to this and not allow whatever else has happened or happening in this marriage relationship cause us to feel disconnected and cause us to derail down a path? So that's what we have to do during that time of winter season. So those are the 4 seasons, Jill, that couples will go through. I didn't say if, I didn't say may or can. These are the 4 seasons that couples will go through, and some are able to navigate them better than others. And I'm going to say this, in doing this, going through these seasons, especially going through fall and winter, we have to be able to identify the enemy and the influences that are around us that may be contributing to these things.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we want to put blame on our spouse. I was listening to a young lady reached out to me, and her husband did something and she clearly blamed him for it. And while we can argue that it was his fault, that doesn't happen, I asked her, I said, what would have happened if you did something different? If you didn't, go to blame, but took that in a different direction. So, we have to understand that although our spouses, and we will do things that may irritate each other or we don't disagree with, you don't ever want to resort to blame. You always have to remember that we are on the same page, and the only enemy that's in this marriage is Satan, or that has access or that would try to influence. I would say the marriage is Satan. He's the only one. So we have to be able to look for patterns of division, look for patterns of temptation that may be happening, patterns of discord. When you see things repeatedly happen, we have to be able to recognize those things and be able to combat those things. We have to stay vigilant. We have to pray together and seek guidance, spiritual guidance, counseling, relationship coaching and things of that nature to be able to combat those influences. We can see the facts that are in front of us, but we have to always be led by the truth, which is the word of God. And that's why it's so important too for us to be equally yoked. We're gonna have to do a talk on that.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important. So yeah.
Absolutely, which really just takes us to not only recognizing the enemy, but also, like you talked about, the external influences.
Mm-hmm.
This is things that you may be experiencing stress. Sometimes you may be experiencing lack of personal fulfillment.
Yeah.
And if you're experiencing lack of personal fulfillment, that's going to make you show up less excited. You may be a little sad. You may be kind of like feeling a little down. And it may feel less like a lack of personal life satisfaction that may also be confused with lack of marital satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And there also may be some things in the marriage that you may want to shift, right? Doing the same thing over and over, whether that's inside, outside the bedroom, and otherwise, can lead to a level of dissatisfaction or whatever the case may be, or have a negative opinion. And those things you kind of got to work through and see how you can pivot to rekindle. There also may be others outside influences. This is outside people, oftentimes, that you may be tempted to talk to. And that's a big mistake people make. It's like they're so tempted to want to talk to everybody, but their spouse.
And God.
Right. And I see it because it's easier, especially if you're dealing with somebody that's, you're like
resistant.
Right, you're resistant, you're not comfortable sharing your emotions, or you're conflict avoidant, you may feel more comfortable. But I'll tell you, that's like the greatest mistake that you can make, because now you're creating division in your home, and you're not giving your partner opportunity to, nothing should come between you and your spouse. In this case, this is where what's happening between you and your spouse both should be in the knowing. And like we talked about, if you can't get that to be with just each other, don't fret. Like seeing a counselor is not the worst thing. And there's some amazing counselors.
Mhm.
I'm sending by one of them
Mhm.
that can help support and navigate and help you foster that communication. Because some of you guys, I have to say this before we wrap up, as we're winding down this conversation, especially as the Black people, we've lost so much
Yeah.
culturally. We've lost a lot in terms of our emotional development and family customs and dynamics because of the break in how we even
Yeah.
came to this country. And even perhaps some of our roots wasn't the best. So we get to take this time to now reinvigorate and learn these things, or to learn these things that we don't know. Because right now I'm thinking, especially this current generations and last generation, the two, they're saying what 70-80% of these kids are not being raised with both parents. And even people that were raised with both parents, such like us, a lot of times there was a lot of unhealthy dynamics, or people, again, they didn't know how to solve conflict either.
Right.
And so either the parents never argued in front of the kids, or they always argued, but it never got to a resolution. And a lot of times, because we're so, I'm going on a tangent, but I'm about to land the plane right now. You know, sometimes you get into personality things where people just want to be right and not understanding that you can have an opinion. I can have an opinion. I can respectfully disagree. I don't even got to mention I disagree with her opinion. And we still can respect each other's opinion. I still can say, I understand how that made you feel. So sometimes we don't get to that, but
you want to be right.
Right. and if we're right, the other person has to be wrong.
Self-righteousness is selfishness.
That doesn't make the other person feel good. Yeah. So this is a time where we get to set those boundaries about how we're communicating, who we're communicating with, what's allowed, what's not allowed, communicating openly, prioritizing the marriage. Yeah. Above external pressures and temptations. Come on, let's just be honest.
Absolutely.
And going from there. We can go on and on. I feel like this is a good, this whole spiritual resilience, I think we're going to have to do more. Not only just in spiritual resilience and marriage, but perhaps even the spiritual resilience in other areas of our lives to go into.
Absolutely. So listen, that is our time for today. This has been an amazing and exciting conversation. We just want to let you know, like, listen, navigating the different seasons in marriage does require resilience. That's just bottom line. It requires your faith, and it requires a deep spiritual connection with your partner, your husband or your wife, and also with God. And by understanding these 4 seasons and recognizing the external influences and staying significantly grounded, that's going to help you all be able to navigate through these seasons successfully. Not saying there are not going to be any bumps in the road, and you know, you're not going to sway from left to right, because that's going to happen. But you'll, at the end, you will win. So thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast, Relationshiptopia, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. It's been a great. Don't forget to download that devotion. Okay.
We'll put it in the show notes, and we'll also tag that video with Jonathan Majors in the show notes as well, so that you can go and check it out. Oh my God,
beautiful expression. I think that was just like, he should be the poster child for vulnerability, at least for the rest of the year.
I love it. Yeah.
So anyway, you guys, until next time, peace and blessings. Bye. We're out. Dun, 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 dun.